Debt payoff or emergency fund? First, here's the answer. $200 sitting in your account right now. One side of you says, kill the debt. The other side says, keep it, just in case. You've probably picked a side already. Here's the problem. Neither side is wrong, and neither side is enough. Because the question was never debt or safety. It's sequence. Picture the tire, flat on the shoulder of the road. If every spare dollar went to the card this month, that tire bill goes back on the card too. Now picture the other version. You kept the cash. Good instinct. But the card is still charging you while that cash just sits there. Safety, quietly turning into a cost. So which one is it? The old rule says, whichever has the highest interest rate wins. Always. Clean rule. You've heard it 100 times. Here's what it doesn't ask. It doesn't ask what happens when the tire actually goes flat. It doesn't ask if your checking account can survive a normal, boring, bad week. It doesn't ask whether today's extra payment quietly builds tomorrow's new debt. The real question is smaller than all of that. Which risk gets worse if this dollar goes somewhere else? That's fragility-interest sequencing. 3 things fighting for the same dollar. What the debt is costing you, how exposed you are to a shock, and how easily one bad week turns into new borrowing. Not a formula to memorize, a lens to look through before the trade-off looks through you. Now the actual math on a real number. $3,200 on a card at 24%. That's about $64 gone this month, just in interest. Not judgment, just the price tag. Now the other side. A $700 shock against a $300 buffer. That's a $400 hole. And a $400 hole doesn't stay a hole. It goes back on the card. You're probably thinking, I'll just chase the interest rate, that's the responsible move. Fair. But watch what happens. Debt first, cash thin. You shrink the balance, then the tire goes flat, and you're borrowing again. For less progress than it looked like. Cash first, debt ignored. You're safe from the tire. And the card keeps eating $64 a month while you feel good about your savings screen. So here's the actual sequence. The first dollars go to closing the $400 hole. Not because debt doesn't matter, but because reborrowing is the trap that resets everything else to zero. Once that hole is closed, the surplus turns and attacks the 24%. That's not a slogan. That's an order of operations. You've felt this without naming it. You make the extra payment. For 2 days you feel like an adult. Then the bill hits early, the account goes tight, groceries go back on the card. The payment was real. The system underneath it wasn't. Or you're the other one. You keep the cushion, watch it grow, feel responsible. Meanwhile, the card keeps taking its 64 bite, month after month, and the cushion never actually gets used for anything except feeling safe. Neither of you is careless. You're both answering a 2-risk question with a 1-number answer. The fix in 3 questions. First, what's your actual floor? Not a textbook percentage. Look at your real irregular bills, your real income timing, and ask, would a small shock right now force you to borrow? Second, what's the real interest cost? Actual balance, actual rate. What does waiting 1 more month actually cost you in dollars, not vibes? Third, what breaks the plan? Name the expense. Check if the buffer survives it. Ask if today's extra debt payment makes that break more likely. Then, sequence the dollar. Fragility exposed. Build the floor first. Floor already holds. Attack the rate. Both exposed. Split the dollar until the nearest failure point is covered. Then check again next month. This is where the title actually gets answered. Debt first when interest is the closer threat. Emergency fund first when the shock is the closer threat. Both in sequence, when reborrowing is what's actually waiting to trap you. This isn't about winning the argument you've been having with yourself. It's about which direction you're moving. Every dollar you send out has one job: shrink what yesterday cost you, or block tomorrow from repeating it. Once you know which failure point is closest, the decision stops being a debate. Not easier, just clearer. That's the finance upgrade shift. Stop asking which advice sounds stricter, and start asking which failure point your next dollar actually protects. So, debt or emergency fund? Which one's closer for you right now? Tell me the number in the comments and send this to whoever's stuck arguing both sides of this in their own head.